We're counting down the 10 fastest I'm out moments in Shark Tank history. Rapid-fire rejections where a single misstep ended the pitch almost instantly. From wild valuation blunders and regulatory landmines to brand clashes and tone-deaf jokes, these blink-and-you-miss-it exits reveal exactly what not to do in the tank. Which pitch was so off the mark it triggered the quickest shark walkout ever? Let's kick off the countdown with number 10, where fantasy math was enough to end the deal before it even began. A founder stands before the sharks and makes a bold claim. We are seeking $2 million for 5%. The words barely leave their mouth before a shark cuts in, I am out. No questions, no debate, just a swift rejection. The problem is not the product or the story, it is the math. On Shark Tank, numbers are the first test. The sharks expect to see a clear connection between the amount asked, the percentage offered, and the business's actual performance. When a pitch opens with a sky-high valuation and little or no sales to back it up, the deal is over before it starts. These moments are replayed across fan blogs and highlight reels. The founder's face freezes, the panel glances at each other, and someone interrupts mid-sentence to bow out. It is not personal, it is arithmetic. The sharks want to see trailing revenue, healthy margins, and realistic comparisons to similar companies. Anything less, and the fastest I am out is almost guaranteed. The lesson? Defend your valuation with hard numbers, revenue, margins, and comps, or risk losing the room in seconds. A platter of deep-fried snacks lands on the table, and the pitch begins with a boast about secret sauce and late-night cravings. Within seconds, the sharks' expressions harden. As the founders dodge questions about ingredient lists and safety testing, concern spreads through the panel. One shark raises the point. Without clear labeling or documented compliance, any slip could spark a lawsuit. Another points out the missing health certifications, while a third worries aloud about the PR disaster of a foodborne illness traced back to a shark-backed brand. The exits come fast. No one wants to touch a product with ambiguous ingredients and no proof of regulatory sign-off. In the food world, especially with indulgent or risky products, the bar is set higher. Lab results, counsel letters, and airtight packaging claims. Anecdotes about popularity at local fairs won't cut it. Sharks have learned that a single compliance gap can erase years of brand building overnight. The lesson is simple but strict. If you're pitching anything edible or in a high liability category, walk in armed with safety data and legal assurances, or you'll be out before the samples are even tasted. Another air freshener pitch hits the carpet, and the mood in the room shifts before the founders finish their first sentence. The sharks exchange glances, eyebrows raised. Damon John lets out a sigh. Lori Griner leans back and folds her arms. Someone mutters, "Again?" The product on display looks nearly identical to half a dozen others that have come before. Same tree-shaped cutouts, similar scents. Nothing that signals a breakthrough. Within 10 seconds, the panel starts bowing out in sequence. No one asks about margins, distribution, or even sales. The exits are almost synchronized, driven by a wave of visible boredom and impatience. This isn't about a bad product or a glaring flaw. It's about category fatigue. Over the years, at least 5 air freshener companies have pitched on Shark Tank, and every time the same problem surfaces. There's nothing new. The market is crowded, and without a unique formula, patent, or exclusive supply chain, the sharks see no reason to listen. Fast exits become the norm for anything that feels like a copycat. The lesson is sharp. If you're walking into a familiar category, you have to lead with what's non-obvious and defensible. Sharks want to hear about real innovation, not just another spin on a tired idea. In a room where attention is currency, being forgettable is the fastest way to lose it. A founder steps onto the Shark Tank carpet, barely finishes their first line, and Damon John is already shaking his head. "I'm out," he says, barely a beat after the pitch begins. The clock, just over a second. That instant exit didn't just turn heads in the studio, it exploded online. The moment became a viral GIF, shorthand for rejection at warp speed, and soon, the internet was timing every Shark Tank pass against Damon's legendary 1.3-second wave-off. But behind the meme is a deeper truth about how investors think. Damon has explained in interviews that after years of hearing pitches, his brain works like a search engine for red flags. He scans for product fit, founder confidence, and a business model he recognizes. If anything feels off, he's out before the pitch can warm up. This kind of pattern matching isn't unique to Damon, but his speed made it famous. The lesson is clear. You have just seconds to show you belong. If your value proposition isn't instantly clear, or your numbers don't match what sharks expect, you're gone before the conversation even starts. For founders, that means boiling your pitch down to one line that passes the snap judgment test. On Shark Tank, the first impression is everything, and sometimes it lasts just 1.3 seconds. A founder steps forward, all confidence and charm, ready to win over the sharks. But in the first moments, a joke aimed at Mark Cuban lands with a thud. The line, meant as playful banter about Cuban's business background, draws silence instead of laughter. Cuban doesn't hesitate. He cuts in, voice flat. "I'm out." The words are out in less than 5 seconds. His expression makes it clear. This isn't about the pitch, the product, or even the numbers. It's about respect. The rest of the panel sits frozen, caught between shock and secondhand embarrassment. There's no rally, no attempt to salvage the mood. The founders try to recover, but the damage is done. On social media, the clip explodes. Viewers call it the shortest, most deserved rejection of the season. Comment threads fill up with warnings about reading the room and knowing your audience. Cuban's reaction becomes a case study in founder judgment. One tone-deaf joke can close every door before the pitch even begins. This moment is more than a viral clip. It's a lesson in emotional intelligence. The best founders don't just pitch ideas, they manage the energy in the room. On Shark Tank, every second counts, but so does every word. Tone isn't just strategy, it's survival. If you're pitching for real money, leave the risky jokes at home. Craft your opening for clarity and respect, and never dunk on a potential partner sitting across the table. A founder steps forward with a pitch that sounds like the future. A platform where anyone can invest in real estate, no minimum required, all funds pooled together. The panel listens for less than a minute before the questions start. Is this registered with the SEC? What investor protections are in place? The answers are vague. The founders mention a pooled fund, but no official registration, hinting at a workaround rather than a compliance plan. Mark Cuban's tone sharpens. You're selling unregistered securities to the public? The rest of the sharks follow, citing the risk of SEC violations and the lack of legal sign-off. Within 40 seconds, every investor has opted out. In finance, the rules aren't just paperwork. They're the foundation. The Securities Act of 1933, Regulation D, and Reg CF exist to protect investors from exactly this kind of ambiguity. Any hint of skirting those frameworks is a deal breaker, no matter how promising the business model sounds. Legal blogs and Atlanta Black Star recaps later point to this pitch as a textbook example of what not to do. Never pitch a finance product without clear counsel approval and a compliance roadmap. After the episode aired, the company's social media quietly announced a pivot to more regulated offerings. No SEC action was made public, but the warning shot was clear. In regulated industries, the first thing investors want to see is proof you've done your legal homework. If you're asking for money in a space governed by federal law, lead with compliance or expect the fastest "I'm out" in the room. A pair of filmmakers walk onto the Shark Tank stage and lay out their dream, a feature film about the world of MotoGP racing. Their ask is bold, $5 million for a stake in a movie that doesn't have a script, a cast, or even a clear distribution plan. Mark Cuban doesn't wait for the pitch to get rolling. Less than 10 seconds after hearing the number, he cuts in. "We're not a movie studio. I'm out." His voice is flat, and there's no room for argument. The rest of the panel follows suit almost immediately, each shark echoing the same sentiment. The room feels different from the usual product pitches. There's no talk of margins, no questions about sales, not even a hint of curiosity about the story behind the film. The issue isn't the founder's passion or the subject matter. It's the category itself. Shark Tank is built for scalable businesses, consumer products, tech platforms, services with repeatable models. Movie financing, especially for an unscripted project, is a gamble that doesn't match the panel's investing playbook. Mark Cuban, who's known for backing sports and tech, has said many times that he invests in businesses, not bets. A film with no script and no stars is the definition of a bet. The other sharks agree. Even Kevin O'Leary, who's famous for taking risks, shakes his head. The founders leave the stage without a single offer, and the pitch is remembered as one of the fastest mass exits in the show's history. For entrepreneurs, the lesson is clear. Before you walk into any investor meeting, know exactly what types of deals they do and which ones they never will. If your business doesn't fit their mandate, even the best pitch can't save you. Two young founders step onto the carpet with a bright orange kiosk and a vision. Public phone charging everywhere. Their pitch, Amber, promises to solve the dead battery problem for bars, clubs, and college hangouts. The panel leans in, waiting for the numbers. What does it cost to make? How much does a venue pay? The answers come out tangled. Each unit, they say, sells for $2,000 or leases for $150 a month. But when the sharks press for hard numbers, manufacturing cost, installation, expected usage, the responses get fuzzy. The founders mention fingerprint scanners for security, but can't explain how they'll keep the devices clean or reliable in a crowded bar. Questions about maintenance and sanitation go unanswered. The sharks glance at each other. Mark Cuban shakes his head. Kevin O'Leary points out the obvious. Bars already offer free phone charging, even if it's just handing your phone to the bartender. Lori Greiner asks why any venue would pay for a kiosk when a cheap power strip would do. The panel's skepticism builds with every vague answer. Within 30 seconds, the first "I'm out" lands. Damon John follows, then the rest of the panel. The pitch is over in under a minute. No debate, no offers, just a fast collective exit. What doomed the Amber pitch wasn't just the product, but the lack of operational clarity. The founders couldn't show how their $2,000 machine would beat out a $10 solution, or how they'd cover the cost of hardware, cleaning, and support. The fingerprint idea, meant to signal security, only raised more doubts about hygiene and reliability. Behind the scenes, the team had changed their pricing slides minutes before taping, and the stress showed. They promised a presence everywhere, but never explained the math that would get them there. For anyone pitching hardware, or any business with real-world costs, the lesson is blunt. Lead with unit economics. Show exactly how much it takes to build, deploy, and maintain each unit, and how that translates to profit. Vague visions of ubiquity don't count. Investors want to see the path from one machine to 1,000 mapped out in dollars and cents. If you can't explain that in your first answer, you're out before you start. A box of air fresheners hits the Shark Tank carpet, each one stamped with a bold NBA logo. The founders of Ride FRSH, Donovan and Trey Brown, launch into their pitch: high-end scents, official licensing, and a subscription model that's already turning heads. But in the lineup sits a Golden State Warriors air freshener, front and center. Mark Cuban's eyes lock onto the rival logo. The founders keep talking, but the room's energy changes in an instant. One of them holds out the Warriors branded freshener with a grin and says, "Smells like winning. Sorry, Mark." Cuban doesn't even try to hide his reaction. His face drops. He leans back, folds his arms, and says, "You should have read the room better. I'm out." It's not just a pass, it's a hard stop. Less than 4 seconds from product reveal to exit, and the rest of the panel sits in stunned silence. The pitch continues, but Cuban is done. He doesn't ask about sales, margins, or distribution. For him, the deal died the moment a Mavericks rival logo landed on his desk. This wasn't about the business. Ride FRSH had NBA licenses, a healthy subscriber base, and real retail ambition. The exit was personal. Cuban's identity as Dallas Mavericks owner runs deep. Years of playoff battles with the Warriors have cemented that rivalry. In interviews, he's admitted that brand loyalty is non-negotiable. "If you walk into my house with the wrong flag, I'm not letting you in the door." The founders later revealed the Warriors' jab was intentional, a calculated PR move to generate buzz. The gamble paid off in one sense. The clip exploded online, racking up hundreds of thousands of views and cementing its place as the fastest, most iconic exit in Shark Tank history. For entrepreneurs, the lesson is brutal but clear. Investors don't just scan your numbers, they judge every visual, every symbol, every cue. Brand sensitivity can override even the strongest fundamentals. Before you pitch, audit every detail. Remove anything that might clash with your audience's loyalties or values. On Shark Tank, the first impression isn't just a moment, it's the whole deal. One misplaced logo, and you're out before the conversation even starts. From wild overvaluations to instant brand clashes, our countdown exposed the fastest "I'm out" moments Shark Tank has ever seen. Mark Cuban's legendary exit over a rival NBA logo stands as the ultimate reminder that even a single visual misstep can end a deal in under 5 seconds. Across all 9 entries, a clear pattern emerged. Sharks bolt when they sense immediate risk, be it fuzzy numbers, legal headaches, weak differentiation, or a pitch that fails the 10-second pattern match test. The most shocking exits weren't just about bad math or weak products, but about founders missing the subtleties, investor sensitivities, regulatory minefields, and the critical importance of tone. Every pitch that made this list qualified because it violated a core Shark Tank rule in record time. The broader truth? In the high-stakes world of televised investing, your first impression is everything. Blink, and your shot could be over before it begins. Comment below with your favorite lightning-fast "I'm out" moment. And remember, on Shark Tank, the clock starts the second you step on stage.